Matthew chapter number 11, verses number 1, 2, and 3. And it came to pass, when Jesus had made an end of commanding his 12 disciples, he departed thence to teach and to preach in their cities. Now, when John had heard in the prison the works of Christ, he sent 2 of his disciples, and said unto him, Art thou he that should come, or do we look for another? In chapter number 11, we shift gears. After the teachings in verse number 10, because we have right here, after Jesus had made an end of commanding his 12 disciples, he departed and went to other cities or neighboring cities. And then in the prison, John had heard about the works of Yeshua. Can you imagine what John must have been thinking in prison? Locked up for telling the truth, wondering, am I going to get out of here? Knowing what you knew about Jesus, because you baptized him, you testified about him, and now you're hearing all these great works that's solidifying what you've said. But the other thing we have to take into account is all of the scriptures. Let's take a look at them real quickly. Now, we're going to come back, and Daniel, the 9th chapter, verses 24 and 26 is what we want to focus on. But let's go back real quick and look at all of these scriptures that testify about the coming Messiah, starting all the way back from Genesis 3rd chapter, verse number 15. In the garden. Then we move on. Genesis 12 and 3. You can pause at any time. I mean, the scriptures are voluminous about all the different promises that God made about how he was going to send someone and send his son, how the scepter shall not depart out of Judah, and all kind of scriptures. Moses even testified, God would send a prophet like unto myself, him you will hear. Then you go through the Psalms, prophecy after prophecy, Isaiah, Jeremiah, Ezekiel, Ezra. But let's stop at Daniel, because Daniel has an interesting prophecy. 70 weeks are determined upon thy people and upon the holy city to finish the transgressions and to make an end of sins and to make reconciliation for iniquity and to bring in everlasting righteousness and to seal up the vision and prophecy and to anoint the most holy. Know therefore and understand that from the going forth of the commandment to restore and to rebuild Jerusalem unto the Messiah, the Prince, shall be 7 weeks and 62 weeks. The street of the city shall be built again, and the wall, even in troublous times. And after 62 weeks shall Messiah be cut off, but not for himself, and the people of the prince that shall come shall destroy the city and the sanctuary, and the end thereof shall be with a flood, and unto the end of the war, desolation and determined. This scripture clearly talks about Messiah, but this scripture is almost like Zechariah. This scripture doesn't talk about Messiah coming as a conquering king. This scripture talks about how they're going to rebuild Jerusalem, how the walls will be built in troublous times. And we know that's in the book of Nehemiah and Ezra, how that came through. We know how they gave the commandment to rebuild. And John probably knew about the scriptures and did the calculations. And he knew all of this was talking about. But it comes to talking about how Messiah shall be cut off. And then it talks about how the city will be destroyed. So can you imagine John trying to put this together in his mind? Is this the Messiah that's going to come, that's going to be the reigning prince, the conquering king? Or is this the Messiah that's going to come, that's going to be cut off, the suffering servant? John didn't know. His disciples didn't know. So John sent his disciples to try to get some clarity from the one who he knew was from God. But what was his purpose? What was going to be his end result? Was he going to be cut off? Was he going to be the conquering king? Was this when Jerusalem would be destroyed? You see, prophecy is not meant for us to be hocus pocus, abracadabra people to say this and this and this is going to happen in the future. That's not what prophecy is given. Jesus said prophecy was given so that when it happens and you know that God prophesied it, then you will know that that is a true prophet. So we may know prophecy and we may know the end result, but God still has a way of revealing what he wants when he wants, and it's still a mystery. And he wants us to trust him through it all. Even his second coming. His second coming has so many earmarkers and so many things pointing to the last 3 feast days being fulfilled spiritually, but he still turns around and tells us no man will know the day and the hour. We know it's connected with the feast, but still, when it does happen, no one will know the exact day or the exact hour, even though we will know the time and the season. God, we bless you. We give you glory. We give you all the praise. Help us to seek your face and help us to trust you the more. Thank God.